Last time on Lawful Stupid, we did like a Sim City build your own item, learn about the world episode.
It was
we got some sweet lore.
Downtime well spent. Got some sweet lore about the pantheon of Goron and some of the gods that are homebrewed by Dwayne, which, by the way, awesome work, Dwayne. Very proud of you. Good world building. And then, outside of world building, we did some actual physical building. And we built a gun. We made a gun.
Yeah. I mean, kind of. It's a spell focus in the shape of a gun, but like...
Same.
This is easily the best use of downtime we've ever used in anything.
I'm sure I made Yard proud. I built a forge that we built said flintlock gun into.
It's pretty good.
And we worked as a team.
One time in one of my campaigns, you used downtime to get married.
That's true. That was magical. And I retract my statement only
But now
slightly.
he looks way more like a pirate, so it's like...
Yeah, now I'm even more pirate.
Point.
I can show off to the pirates.
Like, hey, pirates, look what I got.
Made it, thanks. But yeah,
maybe
that's what happened.
the pirates will want some, and we can just quit our adventuring life, and we'll settle down, and we'll make these for pirates.
Oh, I kind of can't do that. I have to make a story, or Win will probably tear my soul apart or something.
It's a good story. Story about the greatest, about Sir Smith and Sir Wesson.
We all change our names. I am Sir And.
Nice. Right, so you guys spent your combination of days talking about the gods and the lore and building this arcane focus in the shape of a flintlock pistol. And I think you've obviously tested this out at some point during the downtime, and you're able to cast basic spells through it. And really all your spells, right? But you only notice like the enhancements on your Eldritch Blasts and your cantrips.
Well, paint me a picture. I waited a whole, between last episode and now to,
so to be clear...
People waited a week.
So to be clear, what his Arcane Focus gives him is +1 on spell attacks, right? And that's all spell attacks. He just doesn't happen to have a whole lot of those, actually. So you build this gun, and I think when you guys finish building the flintlock, and it cools, and it's late. The forge is still in embers, and you guys build a fire, and kind of have a moment to yourselves, right? You've been fighting monsters. You've been ignoring children abductions. You've been interacting with pirates, and you've had your own emotional tolls taken on you. And I think you guys just spend the night telling old stories and laughing. And waiting for it.
I'm going to lean over to Atlas. Atlas, do you happen to have a good blade?
I have several that I could probably procure for you if you need. What for?
I just need to borrow one.
Yeah, sure. And
I
imagine I have one tucked into a boot or something.
Yeah, you have knives.
And I'll hand him one.
I take the knife and I very, very carefully, very delicately cut the sleeves off of my coat. So now I have a sick-ass vest. And I take off, as you guys may or may not remember, during episode 7, Tinker Hell, I found a robe of the Arcanist. It is blue and has stars on it, and I've been wearing it the entire time, and no one's brought it up. And it has not benefited me at all, so I'm going to take that off. I'm going to fold it up neatly. I'm going to stow it in my bag along with these sleeves. I'm going to hold on to those. But now, just vest, fur collar, silver scales displayed, fingers and hands almost claw-like in a way, kind of got some claw fingers, and just silver scales. Nice tight body, not super muscular, kind of lithe.
Like a swimmer's body.
Like a swimmer's body. Very smooth, silver scales. And that's coming up to the neck, about halfway up the neck, the silver scales stop, which had been covered by my collar previously. And just know that.
So you're telling stories and
doing that thing.
Well, I mean, what do you want me to do? Unless they want to interact with that, I'm going to continue with the narrative.
God, I want to. I just don't know how.
I picture
Control yourselves, boys.
Other than maybe some obvious eyeing up and down and
I picture Atlas like hands on the hip, like he
Who
just
knew?
like he thinks he's like a hairdresser / like stylist now. He just starts cutting up your stuff everywhere. He's like, this looks real good. And new class.
So, yeah, you guys watch as he like destroys his traveling cloak. I mean, in your eyes, Atlas, right? Because like you're a maker of things, right? And he's like disassembling. So you guys tell stories, right? Like you tell stories of silence, like the good ones of maybe your dad, or like folk tales, or maybe songs or whatever. And you like, especially being around pirates, like you're more reminded of pirate songs and pirate tales, and like the times you got like super smashed and only remember bits and pieces of the story, but don't worry, you had to be there, right? Like, and then Atlas is like telling stories from battle school, and you guys are just like, if your characters don't do this, that's fine. I just imagine this is like the first time in a long time you guys have had a chance to like
bro it up,
let loose.
yeah.
I just for reference, Kristoff at least is gonna share pretty much all the things that have kind of gone unspoken. So like we haven't really had, so we've known each other for like a month, 2 months now, but like we haven't really had a lot of time to sit down and unwind like this. So like the vision that Wynn showed me in the chess game, and then like, you know, the stuff from the Lost episode, and then like all the little things and all the lore that's been kind of out there. This is the form in which that would come to.
So Kristoff like trusts him enough to like share all those things.
We just had, like, I feel like he's trusted him enough for a while, except for the falling out that he had with Atlas, but just didn't have the chance to the moment to breathe, to sit down and actually talk about it, and especially with this most harrowing experience in the kind of our one shots and kind of that whole situation and kind of how that's turned his world upside down, to really talk about, and then talk about Wendy and the way that he feels like the Architect's Guild and all these different all the things is this is the moment to voice that to actually the boys, so that it is submitted that they have that knowledge as well.
I want to say, I think Ilaria, I don't know how often she comes out of her sword, but I feel like she's coming out more and more from her sword, if able, as if she's almost like when we're hanging out, she's there too. Like,
I think that especially with bonding, you have the ability to like summon her, and you, Atlas, do not know this, but she like previously has not been able to respond to everything, right? Like, because she's fighting a curse, like she is magically bound, but she is able to like respond more coherently and less of this vengeful spirit style. And I think absolutely, as like you guys are telling stories, you're like, maybe you're telling a story, like you're telling like, oh yeah, and so then I see this and I'm into the woods, and the boys see it before you do because you're like telling a story, and she's sitting, in the open spot next to the fire, like the translucent image of her.
Yeah, just real discreet Arcana check.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just a real discreet Arcana check.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's going to be 18.
it's Ilaria.
I know it's Ilaria, but like there's obviously a change that's going on with the spirit that's bound to this sword and the magical forces that connect her to our world, and also with you, and I'd like to perceive that if possible.
So you, this is the first time you've really like examined the blade since having like an Arcane Torrent proficiency.
Mm-hmm.
You see Ilaria's form almost projected off the blade. Think of how like a projector sprays light out, right? It's kind of like that, and that's, you're like, oh, that's very normal, that makes sense, but it makes you doubt some things about maybe ghosts or translucency, whatever, like, because it's just all Arcane Torrent energy. And the closer it gets to the sword, you see that energy is going from its natural pure blue, that like almost Arctic blue or ocean blue that kind of changes and I describe when you deal with the Arcane Torrent. It starts darkening, and then you can see the energy around the sword itself is this deep, almost necrotic purple. But as it like stretches out, it becomes more Arcane Torrent, and as you see her, she's to them she's translucent, but to her you can see this hue of blue. You can see the Arcane Torrent energy. Most concerning to you, Kristoff, is you see the link from the purple sword to Atlas. Like, you can see that like is kind of like flowing over him, that purple energy.
That I will keep to myself.
I just want to know, for me listening to this episode in the future, canonically, was there a reverse ghost moment when you were building the forge out of clay?
Yeah, I'd like to think maybe there's a little thing going on there underneath the waterfall.
Like she's Patrick Swayze. Oh, good. I just want that. I just want that to be canon.
Yeah. So he's like telling the story about, you know, the snow and seeing you know, all of her memories and dealing with the mechanical construct that he saw that seemed to be sentient, and Kenra Ironclaw itself, and you guys kind of just notice her appear, and she's listening and acting normal.
I hate to be that guy, but when he tells the story, are these Warforged? Can I roll for that?
Oh yeah, you can roll. I mean,
what am I rolling?
It would be history check. I mean, you're guessing from what you can tell.
Yep, that is gonna be 16 plus 3, 19.
So you know that people have made like arcane golems and other type of like magical constructs. What he's describing, you don't really know.
Okay.
It doesn't sound familiar to you. Now, out of character, it is not Warforged.
Okay.
That's not who they are. Warforged do exist in this world. They're just not like common. It's not a common race, right?
Got it.
But this doesn't sound like that.
But it is different than that.
It is different than that. Yeah, absolutely. It's something totally, just fucking straight up spoilers, it's totally homebrew.
Okay.
I mean, I do kind of like that. Like, there's multiple organic life forms. There could be multiple mechanical, more metal. I don't know. I like that.
Yeah. Right. Well, it's just like you saw the constructs at the Tinker's Hell. Like,
they're closer to that than they are Warforged.
Right. While they're sentient, it's very much a more rudimentary style. Like, if you listen to episodes like talking about glass for eyes, and like if you've seen like the custom art or the concept art for Warforged, they're definitely more like put together. Kind of. So yeah, I think Ilaria is listening, and I think maybe she tells a story of her past, like a story of her and her dad, of what she can remember of him when she's like a small girl playing in a field, and she's like, that explains that's one of the stories that helps her keep going, right? Like that and her bond with Atlas and stuff like that.
Oh, I definitely smile at the thought of a ghost story as I'm trying to memorize this.
Yeah. Oh, I got the best ghost story. Is it scary?
No.
It's a story that a ghost told me.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think I would definitely tell him like exactly step for step what happened with Wen.
Okay, so you guys describe meeting Wen and his giant stature and shrinking and what he showed you and his displeasure of you like not taking care of his artifact, and that him like still trying to like set you on this path of telling a good story. Do you tell them about your actual bond?
Oh, I got everything. Complete honesty with him, packed and everything.
Okay, so he unloads that like at some point Wen is coming. He's coming to collect, and Rowan has essentially agreed to do what he believes Wen would want. I mean, I know that doesn't sit super well for Kristoff. Last time he was given a straight up do this or don't. So like
that could be problematic for the future. However, there's a difference between indenturement and a good deal. And considering how he froze those beasts in the cave, I'd say that was a pretty good bucking deal.
It was the only out I saw at the time. I don't know if it was the good choice. Just the choice I made.
We'll deal with the consequences together. And we're able to do that because you made that deal.
Yes.
For that, I think.
Much obliged.
Exactly, and I think it only fair to share it with you since he showed us together. I feel like we work better as a team. And that this might end up being something we face together. And I want you to know, if you hang around, that could be something in our future. But if it's in our...
If he wants a story, it'll be our story. And I don't assign my name to C+ fucking content.
Exactly.
And so after these conversations, the gun has cooled. So you walk over and you pick it up, and it feels right. It feels like the perfect weight. And I think you pick it up and you raise it chest level, as you saw, because you guys aren't familiar with guns per se. It's not like common, right? Like you have seen them.
Ominous.
You have seen them, and you have certainly seen the Reclaimer use it, and so you raise it chest level.
Oh, hold on. If I may, Atlas, give me a hand with something for a moment. And I turn with Atlas, and we go over to where the creek is, and we're kind of crouched down for a second, and we've made a crude, together with our powers,
yes.
We've made a crude doll in the likeness of the Reclaimer out of this creek life. And Atlas, if you want to do the honors.
Oh, I would love to. Pull! And I just toss it straight up.
I reach and fire.
You aim and go ahead and roll a performance check. I'd rather do that than...
Oh, a performance check?
Yeah. This is like... It's not really about anything other than like being sportsmen.
Oh, dog.
I know what bards are good at.
That's a 25.
Whoa.
So, almost out of instinct, you swing your hand up, but you don't really know what you're doing. You're used to like using your hands, and it goes further and further until it just clicks, and you kind of look at the boys and just pull. And it explodes. These two Eldritch Blasts like fire out and twirl and smash this thing apart, and you bring it back down, and you can just... Kristoff more than anybody else, but you can see the tendrils of magic like coming out of the barrel, and
like gun smoke.
Yeah, and you I can't stress enough that while it feels so right, it definitely feels very different, because you're normally using your fingers and your hands to like meld this spell, and now you're just kind of willing it into existence through this focus and this style of focuses that you normally focus to an instrument.
I wanna try where I pull the trigger with my middle finger and use my index finger along the barrel to get like a little of that finger action and feel more natural.
You hold it that way. There's no trigger on this, but you hold it that way.
Well, there's like an air quoting trigger.
Well, there's somewhere for you to like slide your fingers in there for grip for sure. I'm just saying, like, to be clear. So yeah, you do that, and you feel the balance almost kind of like restore itself, because you're not trying to hold something that's barrel heavy. You have this steadying mark, and your hand feels better open, right? A little more open and spread out, and that feels way more natural.
Boys, what do you think?
I think it needs a name.
What do you think? It's a little bit of all of us.
I recommend, for our very bardic gentleman, an instrument of destruction.
I love it. Instrument of destruction it is.
That seems kind of like a long name, though.
I think it's perfect, though. Let me just show you my instrument. Oh, what are you gonna play me?
Of destruction.
Yep. So yeah, you guys spend that night together, and it's relaxing.
We needed it, and we earned it.
Yep. The next few days pass. relatively quickly. It almost feels like, because you're helping patrol. I think you're, and correct me if I'm wrong at any point, I'm just moving this along, but you're helping with these civilians get to the ship and patrolling, and you are working with Chiringa and some of the other Oxbane guards to, anytime any of these monsters or patrols of monsters, because they patrol in pairs, start making their way outside of the no man's land and into the woods, you guys are working to take them out. I think that's fair to say, unless you guys have other things.
Absolutely. I think that I'm coordinating with the ship. I think I spend most of my days not exactly frontline fighting, but more designating targets for the ship, for the arcane artillery. So like going through, scouting from a distance, spotting clusters, designating with mage hand, and watching the arcane shells fall, as it were.
Yeah, I think that's good too. I want everybody to roll me 2d100s, please.
Ooh. 2d100s?
2d100s, yep.
Shit.
You should have bought one of those Dark Silver Forge dice trays, because let me tell you, mine is amazing.
No, it fell out of my hand before it went down, because I rolled it like an idiot.
100.
Okay.
60.
71.
And 72.
Okay. All right, do your math on your side, Alex.
132. Why?
Perfect. I'm just add it up, man. Like,
don't
make me do the work. I remember that one
these?
time. Yeah, add them together. Where Shane rolled like 30 dice, and he's like, so somebody else is counting that, right?
171.
Okay. So your sum is the experience points you gain for doing patrols and guiding people and holding off monsters in your kind of like miscellaneous tasks.
Excellent.
So some extra XP for my boys.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dwayne.
He's a generous DM.
And the afternoon of day 4, I think you all are doing a patrol on the way back, and you're with First Mate Zell, and you're with Avia. And you guys are walking back, just normal chatting, like nothing crazy, just like kind of passing the time as you go back. And
is it fair to say that like Avia's become a little bit warmer to us as time has gone on?
No.
I would very much like her to be warmer to me, and I would be more than happy to roll a persuasion check.
So I'm just gonna. I mean, you can roll a persuasion check, and we'll resolve that. Absolutely, please. I mean, you choose when you want to do a check.
That is a 25.
Okay, yeah. So like, I mean, she respects that you're a magic user, and she doesn't like when you guys like. So, let me be clear about why I just gave you a hard no, because she was very stares daggers. She respects who you guys are, but you can tell it's just not really in her person to like meld and mix with people. She definitely like, she has a bond with Kristoff. Bond being the only bond like she really knows. Like,
I paid her.
No, it's not that. It's that the only time you've ever seen her come out of her shell is when you two are discussing arcane magic, the focuses, like magic itself, the arcane torrent. That's when you've seen her totally come out of her shell. She acts more like a person. But when she's not talking about that, everything else is like business as usual. It's very much
okay.
like...
Let me take that same mentality, so that same role, I'll apply that, and I'll put it through the personification of me actually working in the arcane torrent in front of her and showing her kind of step by step, like just to make something simple, like what
if I show her the pistol that you fucking arcane torrented the shit out of?
I think that's how it goes. I think that I bring the boys, and I think that we show her the pistol and kind of show her like, hey, you have more experience with these things than we do. We've never worked with anything like this before, and you do every day. So we've kind of made the small one. Please ensure that it doesn't blow up and kill my friend. And let me show you how I made it. And I make I show her the arcane torrent, and I kind of step by step go, okay, this is what I'm doing, and I'm pulling from the Ethernet, and I make like a small copper ship made out of copper wire.
Okay, so she takes this, and that is the most, and I think everybody's there for that, right? Because you're all proud of it. And I think that is the most you guys have ever seen her come out of her shell. She's so excited, and like through that conversation, you understand that what you know about the Arcane Torrent pales in comparison to what she does.
Okay.
But she also like openly admits in that one conversation that while she understands it and can focus it, she never learned to do what an architect can actually do.
To shape it.
She can tap into it. Like, in fact, I think, and maybe Rowan, you let her test it? Like, test the focus?
You're muted.
You're muted.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Yeah, so, like, because you guys are like, yeah. And I think that's where the conversation starts, because you've been, like, using this, and you see her use it, and it is, like, this huge arcane blast that sails over the horizon. Like, you can see it trailing. And you can just see, like, you guys can't, but Kristoff, you can see... You see the Arcane Torrent around her, and as she starts to channel, you can see the magic kind of like heading towards her. And then there's just like this deep vacuum, like of the Arcane Torrent around you come into her and then bolt out. Like the amount of Arcane Torrent she could just pull in and focus.
I feel
something
like
you've never seen.
It's almost, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like it's almost the opposite of what Findle does with his laser beams. So he kind of draws it in, maybe not drawing as much in, like as little as possible that he needs drawn to go to his laser focus of destruction. I feel like she just pulls just raw force in and just lets it explode.
Yeah, hers is like where Findle's is very an efficient use of energy and magic, right? Hers is very much a raw dump of what she can pull from the Arcane Torrent. But like you're just now learning to look for that, right? Like you've never really learned to look. And so just watching somebody vacuum in that much at once was the first time you've ever seen that much. And that's where you like understand that like and then when you're explaining it, she's like, she understands it very quickly, where like it took you a little bit longer to like really get the finer points, especially being a sorcerer. But yeah, I think that is, I'm glad you guys like talked about it that way. I think she does warm up to you guys a little bit. And even when she's more business as usual, you can kind of feel that it's softer, but she's definitely much like put off. Like when she's in that business as usual.
I feel like I'd probably pull her aside a little bit.
Okay, yeah, please.
You're very, very talented.
And
you know this.
Do you do that off of your big conversation or just another time?
Off of the big conversation.
Okay, yeah, so she's still kind of loose, and she says, she kind of laughs, and this is the first time really you've seen a genuine laugh out of her out of the 4 days you guys have been around her, and she says, I really am.
You could take this talent could take you anywhere that you wanted to go. You could do... I mean, you would be renowned if you were to kill. I mean, I don't know what choices have brought you here, obviously, to work with these pirates, but there's no way anyone around you is going to appreciate what it is exactly that you can do.
And she smiles and kind of blushes a little bit and says, I appreciate it, Kristoff, but this is the life I want to lead. If I wanted to be back in Antirion, I would be there. But I prefer the sea. I prefer the freedom.
I can respect that.
Just know that whatever life that you want to carve for yourself, you have the tools to do so.
And she smiles and she says, thank you. It's nice to have someone who understands the Arcane Torrent recognize that. Because while I may lead the mages on the ship, most of them only understand how to tap into it. They don't understand what it is.
It could be yours for the shaping and the taking, if you ever decided that was the case. But I want, of course I'm not trying to sway you to this. I understand that you have your place, and I respect that.
and I imagine, so we're clear, I imagine this on the coast, like, right, because you're testing out this magic. And,
I absolutely see a scene in which she blasts arcane energy through the horizon. The water moves around it.
Perfect, great. All right, I just want to make sure we're clear. And she, when you say that, like hits home to her, and she reaches into her pocket and she hands you a small, like, blue coin. And she says, if you ever want to talk after this is all over, just put the torrent in that.
I take it in two hands. I take it, and I thank you very much. I will do that. And I take it and I put it inside of my vest, not coat.
Are Alice and I close enough to hear this exchange, or have they like walked ahead?
No,
of
I
us?
think Kristoff like pulls her
Pulled
aside.
her aside, yeah. I'm not saying you can't take a perception roll.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want to try and hear it for sure, but I don't think he did that within earshot on purpose.
You would not openly hear it. If you were trying to hear it, you absolutely
I would
could.
respect his privacy enough to not try to listen, but I would definitely be like, look at those two, Atlas. What do you make of this?
Kristoff and Avia sitting in a tree.
What are they doing in a tree?
I don't know the next part. I just know that first part.
That's adorable.
Spellcasting.
That's what the elves call it. So yeah, I'm glad we took that detour. That actually is a little rich enhancement of some of the NPCs in your relationships.
Yeah.
So,
Ships.
D&D 2.0. Nice boys.
Nice. Well, I mean, what happened last time?
We were nice boys.
Yeah. Now there's monsters everywhere. Anyways,
You're
guys...
right. Never mind. I murder her. I fucking snap her goddamn neck.
I murder her. Yeah.
Take her fucking money.
So, you guys travel from the beach back towards the cave, and it's on this journey from the coastal line back towards the shanty town, which is now much like thinner, right? It's of able-bodied men, it's of soldiers, it's of people who can be useful to what you guys believe is the next coming battle, right? Like, that's...
Yeah, so
people
it's...
are on the ship, the ship is...
It's kind of less like a shanty town and more like an encampment.
Garrison.
Yeah, it's an encampment, right? And you see Kristoff before anyone else. You see this pile in the distance, and her golden hair is braided back and like wrapped into a bun, and she is wearing this like half leather armor over some robes, and she's wearing glasses, and as she gets closer, you see Wendy Starspray.
Mage Hand is already out, by the way. Mage Hand meets her 30 feet out, grabs her hand in the Mage Hand, lifts above her head, spins, and by the time she's spun around, Kristoff is there, and I pick her up in a big hug. Wendy!
Yeah, you run up, and she says, Kristoff, it's good to see you too. So, I think I missed a few things.
Mm-hmm.
And you see behind her an army. A battalion of troops. You see a mix of orcs and humans and elves and dwarves, and you see trolls, and you see and these stick out more than anything else, Goliath, a couple Goliath, and you see 2 or 3 Treekin, which we kind of talked about several episodes ago. And all together, it's probably the mix of maybe 200 to 300 bodies. And they're like, and you're not really sure the count because the way they're marching, they're not marching wide, obviously, because they're marching through the woods. But you see the mix of the colors of the Arcanist Guild. You see people from the Anvil Guild, and you see them mostly, and they're mostly in blacksmithing armor with like chainmail thrown over them and big, heavy weapons. You see lots of people from the Guild of the Red Sun, denoted by their cape,
red
or their
capes everywhere.
Yeah, or their or whatever their like ornament of choice is, and you see opposite of them, right, in the red and white, and it's almost like they like purposefully put the rest of everybody else in between them. Is the Guild of No Core. And then you see you also see people in like wild kind of garb, right? Leather and furs and like more basic weaponry, more savage, and that's, you know, that to be the Guild of the Hunt. And then you see they're almost like these, if you were to look at this army and pick them out and go, oh shit, those are the fuckers you don't fuck with. You see mismatched setups of people from head to toe plate mail to people in very standard leather or cloth armor, but with wicked weapons and designs. And these people just give you the air of the elite. And you guys know by reputation only from what you heard this is the Tor. One of the guilds you guys did not really interact with, but definitely learned about. And at the front of the Tor, you see just this thick, heavy armor and this big red beard and this wild, like, red mane of hair pulled back. And you see a dwarf, like, leading them with a very familiar hammer. And all of that is marching behind Wendy and a couple of the other Arcanists and the scouting party. You can see them in the distance. Help has arrived, boys.
I'm glad you're here, Wendy.
I'm glad you guys made it. I'm glad you're still here.
It was close.
We weren't all so lucky. And I'll look around as into the town, as I guess it's still probably on fire in some places, or smoldering.
Yeah, I mean, there's still smoke building up, but I mean, like, the monsters aren't just, like, destroying the town. There's definitely, like, fires from where the arcane blasts have been hitting. Yeah, and so she says, do you already have a plan? Who's leading tactics on this side?
It would be important for you to speak to the Magistrate. Is Ambassador Shear here?
No. We thought it best that she lag behind today with a guard, but we weren't sure what we were going to be coming into and thought it best to keep non-combatants off the front line.
That is fair and just. The Marfis have been aiding us in keeping as much as we can. We've taken as many refugees as possible to their ships, which are just off the coast of Oxbane. In addition, we have been bombarding using their arcane artillery to keep the beasts at bay from our encampment. Led by the Magister, who survives, luckily. Our number one objective is to get, and I pull from inside of my vest, this key to a gate that lies within the depths of the castle, to a door to lock these beasts out.
And as you tell her about the pirates and the Murphys, immediately her brows are like arching in a very skeptical manner, and she says, even as you're almost talking, pirates, Kristoff.
They have
and
been
you
invaluable.
see First Mate Zell, and
I resemble that fucking remark.
Avaya kind of head in their direction, and she sees them approach, and she says, I mean no judgment. I just don't know what pirates are doing this close to the coast, considering the arrangement, but that's for another time, I suppose.
Any port in a storm.
Yes, I suppose. And then you can see Avia not loving that, right? Like being called out for just being a pirate, not cool for Avia.
Their intentions have been entirely noble. They have taken our sick, they've taken our women, our children, our infirmed. If anything, they deserve a reward, not reprimand.
And Wendy kind of shrugs and says, honestly, not my circus.
Understood.
And she looks at the key and says, so, we gotta get that in a door, huh? Where's the door?
Through the besieged town, into the castle, into the depths, through a door, large cavernous area, stone bridge, big bad door. We've seen it directly. There are some things that we will discuss at a later date involving that, but as of now, that is our primary objective.
I'm guessing you've tried to shut the door?
With mixed results.
So, town's in pretty bad shape then, right? Like, lots of bad guys?
At this point, there being any survivors in the town is slim to none, the odds. They are mostly these beasts. They are very large, they are very strong, but with coordinated efforts, they can be defeated.
Okay. Alright, well.
I've seen them bleed.
Awesome. So, let's get everything going, I guess. Let me get Frost, and let me get Ike. And
who is Frost and who is Ike?
And she kind of like puts her face in her hand. I feel like you learned nothing as I was teaching you.
You never told me about Frost.
I would have told you about the leader of the
Well,
Architects
then
Guild.
you could have told me, Dwayne. Fine. I know as Scott Chainsaw that he's the leader because of the episodes that I've listened to and the stuff that was off podcast, but I don't know as Christoph should know.
I don't think you would have honestly out of character. She would have referred to him as Frost in like an irreverent way, and you probably would have just ignored that as a person, and especially in your training. She would not have expounded upon that. But with who Wendy is, she would have expected you to know, right? Like, she expects you to know everything about, the Architects Guild, even though that's unrealistic, and you would have known that in her relationship with you, right? She just has higher expectations for you than you do.
Fair enough.
And, you almost, Avia, giggles at that. Pretty,
uncharacteristic.
I'm so done with today. Yes, thank you. Of her. But you can tell that definitely worked for her. And she says, Frost is the guild leader and Ike is the guild leader of the tour. They together are leading this campaign.
You know he has the hammer of Theoden, right?
And she turns around and says, that's not Ike. But, yes, he definitely has an artifact.
Okay.
It was... There's some discussion around that, and frankly, the Arcanists are not happy about it.
I can imagine.
But maybe a conversation for another time.
Fair enough.
There's not a lot of love between the guilds right now, and that's part of why it took us a little bit longer to mobilize. But let me get Ike and Frost. And
We shall wait here.
so she runs off and she gets the two, and they come back, and she has to like signal them down. Frost not so much; she just uses a spell. And so Frost, he approaches, and Frost is like a human, right? But you're not sure because he has like pointy ears, but he could be a half elf. But like, if it wasn't for the pointy ears, you would think he was human. And he's got, glacier blue hair. He's got thick blue robes.
Courtly bow, hand scrapes ground.
He nods to you. And he's got, like, his eyes are the color of the Arcane Torrent. And Ike approaches, and Ike is a Goliath. And he, like, when you look at him and look at what, like, you can see from the tour, like, they're all, like, swords and maces and big weapons, or, like, deadly-looking weapons, and he's just in, like, some basic metal armor around his body. And the only thing that you can really make out around him that, like, is weapon-esque is there are, like, these thick bracelet things around his wrists. Everything else seems to be pretty normal about him. And Wendy says, Ike, and refers to the Goliath, and Frost, of course.
So it's stately hand scraping the fucking floor bow for Frost and quarter bow for Ike.
And boys, do you guys do anything different, or are you guys?
I beat my chest to Ike, knowing the Goliaths are more about strength and power, so the bow means nothing to them.
Yeah,
I'll give him a tip of the hat.
yeah, that's good. Yeah, so you guys all do your own kind of greeting. Avia and the first mate don't really acknowledge the fact that they're anything other than people walking up. And know that Ike, because you're what, 7 foot tall, right, Atlas?
6'6".
Isn't that where you? Yeah, 6'6". Ike stands a foot taller than you. He's about 8 feet, and he is massive. Yeah, and he kind of sees you pound your chest, and he looks down, and he just smiles. You like almost like that, like it's just a grin, like a oh yeah, but like it's in the way their warrior would. Like there's respect there, but it's like you can tell it's like you've got a ways to go kind of grin. Like
oh, that's cute. That's cute.
yeah. And Ike looks down at you, Kristoff, and says, "Where's the commander?"
Right this way. And I lead him to the cave.
And he signals for a couple people to accompany them. And so Wendy comes, and 2 other soldiers guild members of the tour come, and they're like decked out in some crazy armor. And so you guys go to the cave, and you go to talk to
the Magister.
The Magister. All right. So you everybody roll me perception checks as we go through the cave.
10.
14.
A 17 at least.
So, all right. So, Kristoff, you don't know anything. You just see you're walking through the cave. Atlas, one thing that you see is the soldiers, the Oxbane soldiers, when they see Ike come in, there's just like, you have seen them around their commander, and they get stiff and they get ready. Ike walks through. It is like you pulled these boys fresh out of boot camp, right? They snap to attention. They pull up their like cleanest like presentation of like formation that it should be. There's this, every one of their guards and soldiers understands who he is in Orenthal. And Rowan, what you notice is when you're walking through, Frost and Findle like make this eye connection. Like you can tell, like you kind of see something happen there, but neither of them like really pay attention. Like it's not like they look and wave, like, but you can tell they both like really are paying attention to each other as you walk through to the Magister. And when you guys walk up, Frost takes the lead and he says, "So, what did you do now, Magister?" And he is instantly on the defense. What did I do? I didn't do anything. Next thing I know, there's monsters all over my... And Frost like kind of like pulls his hand to the side in like a cutting motion, and he says, "So nothing. Understood."
I speak up in defense of the Magister against all odds.
No more table flipping today.
He's done what he can.
And Frost looks at you and says, "What did you say your name was?"
Stare, countenance of a noble, Christoph Shindo.
And he looks at you and says, "It's brave to speak up, but still not the time." And he turns back to the Magister without giving you an opportunity to respond and says, "This is your town. We are not here to take it. But we understand if we don't solve this problem, it's going to get worse. And it's going to get worse for Yori. So, going forward, we will be taking over operational capacity, and we're going to smash these monsters back into whatever hellhole they came from. Is there something we should know, Magister?" And he like looks at Frost, and you can see he knows who Frost is. He knows his reputation, like there is some blood there. And Frost says, or not Frost, the Magister says, and you can see that this gnome like standing as proud as he can, and he says, "No." And Frost returns a glance, and he's almost more relaxed at that point. "Excellent. So at this point, Commander," and he looks over at the half-orc, and says, "if you'll assemble your troops, we'll be marching on the city tonight."
It's important that you talk to Justicosva
And he turns...
and Taringa.
He turns to you and says, "Crystal, I say this with respect. Please mind your place. You have done great things here. I will, of course, speak to the Justicar. His reputation speaks volumes of the importance he has on this town, and I would say," and he looks over at the Magister and says, "if not for Justicar, this town would not be under the Magister's rule at all. So I appreciate it, but maybe let us do our thing." And you hear Ike like bellow this belly laugh and slap Frost, who's on like staggers. He goes, "Come on, Frost, be nice to the kid. They kept the place safe."
I would talk to us like, he says with all due respect with his words, but his tone definitely says "fuck you."
I kind of stick a hand out over Rowan, and I bow my head and my hand comes down to my vest pocket where the key is. So I know that I've got that. I'm cool with that. And I go, of course, guild leader.
And so they walk over to the Justicar, and you see Frost, Ike, and the Justicar talk. And then you see Chiringa be, like, called over. And then you see Chiringa point at you. And Frost looks at you, doesn't really say anything. It's just not like a bad look. He just, like, looks in the direction. And, you know, Justicar's, like, starting to feel better, but you can tell he's not, like, battle ready at this point.
I don't see any of this because I am still staring intently at the floor.
Perfect. Then you boys, if you're watching, you do. And so you see this, and Frost walks back over, and he kind of pulls you aside without, like, making any notice of it. Like, he kind of puts his hand on your arm and kind of pulls you aside and says, "You've obviously done more than what I could have thought. So I genuinely do not mean disrespect. But Chiringa says you have a key that we need to lock this door."
That's
yes,
true.
sir, good guild leader Frost. I intend fully to place it into the door with my own hand.
Well, you know it's going to be dangerous, right?
I am well aware.
We've been down there before.
This isn't our first rodeo.
And he looks back at you guys and says, "If you want to go back into the belly of the beast, I won't stop you. But
I wouldn't have it any other way.
once we're down there, you follow orders." Yes? He looks
Yes.
at you three.
Yes.
I will definitely tell you that I will follow your orders.
And he looks at you and he says, "You're not holding the key. I'm not really worried about your safety if you're going to act like a child."
I'm well taken care of.
And he looks at your loot and smiles and says, "I'm sure you are." And he looks at you boys and says, "Okay, well, I will get everyone together and we'll march soon." And he turns and walks, and him and Ike walk out of the cave with Justicar, Spawn. And again, Rowan, you're looking for this. You see Findle and him and Frost like eye each other.
Hands on both the boys. Bring him to a huddle. Thank you.
Of course.
For what?
I genuine for your discretion. We're going back. And when we do, we will ensure the good people of Oxbane are well taken care of. We need their aid. Don't get me wrong. We need their aid, absolutely. But as long as I have this key, we ensure it is our duty, not theirs, our responsibility to ensure that this mess is cleaned up.
It will be.
You got it, boss.
And so that is where we will end the episode of you boys huddled around each other in the middle of this encampment, discussing your pledge to Oxbane and pledge to shut the doors. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
I agree.
And I'll say this in the outro, despite it being super late, I really want to do another one. It won't be an hour long, but I really want to do another one because there's content that I want to get recorded real bad.
Lots of whiskey. Let's do it.
What say you, my boys?
I've got
I
that
think
much
it's really-
time.
All right. I don't know what that is in measure of alcohol, but that's okay. So quick outros, and we'll do for speed's sake. I'm going to let you guys go and do your thing. I don't have anything to say.
Do your roll,
other than I love you guys.
Do the humanity roll while we talk about how much we absolutely love every single person listening to this and how you make our lives complete.
Kyle Pinder, here you go. That is with advantage. That is $15 to our. Well, once again, help one of our own. Help. He's another DM. He's another player. He's part of this community, part of the beating heart of this community. You'll see the link. If you can give, absolutely, please do. $15.
Thank you, everyone.
And of course, review, like, share, and join Discord. Most importantly, join Discord. We absolutely love talking to our fans in Discord. But we're going to cut this one real super short because we want to record another episode, and the night is burning. So,
Bye.
Bye. We love you. See what happens next time on Dungeons and Dragons Ball Z.
We are storytellers.
We are creators.
We are gamers.
We are dreamers.
We are players.
We are players.
We are players.
We are DMs.
We are nerdsmith.